Hello everyone, this is Elizabeth from the Marathon City Branch Library. I'd like to recommend a good book to you today. It's called The Evolution of Calpurnia Tate by Jacqueline Kelly. I don't know about you, but I love the kind of book that can transport you completely to another place and time. You don't even feel yourself sitting in your chair anymore because you're suddenly on the moors of England or in an attic room in Canada. In this case, we find ourselves in Fentress, Texas, on a typical farm at the turn of the 20th century. Over the course of one significant year in her life, Calpurnia Virginia Tate, that's Callie V to her friends, discovers her passion for the natural world. Grasshoppers, hummingbirds, tadpoles, caterpillars, wildflowers, deer, coyotes, and everything in between. She has so many questions, all of which she takes down in her scientific notebook. Her interests are encouraged by her naturalist grandfather, who takes her along on trips to the nearby river and includes her in his experiments with plants and pecan whiskey. Callie feels happiest when she is engrossed in observations and experiments, but she is caught between her love for these adventures and her expected behavior as a young lady. Being the only daughter in a family of 7, and reaching an age when she can no longer get away with behaving like a tomboy, Callie tells us about her struggles with piano lessons, cooking, needlework, and knitting. Maybe she's not good at baking a perfect apple pie, or stitching elaborate ornamental lace, but she is rather good at wrangling waterlogged owls and repairing a butterfly's broken wing. That should count for something, right? Her biggest question is whether girls can be scientists. She is determined to find a way if she can. This story and other books about Callie V really made me think about her situation, the choices she makes, and the choices that are made for her in life. About life as it was in the early 1900s, a time before women had the right to vote in this country and could only hold certain jobs. Amazing pieces of historical fiction like this allow us to feel what people in the past felt, and perhaps better understand their actions. I'm going to read from Chapter 1, The Origin of Species. While certain insects overran us, some of the other normal inhabitants of our property, such as earthworms, disappeared. My brothers complained about the lack of worms for fishing and the difficulty of digging for them in the hard, parched ground. Perhaps you've wondered, can earthworms be trained? I'm here to tell you that they can. The solution seemed obvious to me. The worms always came when it rained, and it was easy enough to make some rain for them. I carried a tin bucket of water to a shaded area in the 5 acres of scrub and dumped it on the ground in the same place a couple of times a day. After 4 days, I only had to show up with my bucket, and the worms, drawn by my footsteps and the promise of water, crawled to the surface. I scooped them up and sold them to Lamar for a penny a dozen. Lamar nagged me to tell him where I'd found them, but I wouldn't. However, I did confess my method to Harry, my favorite, from whom I could keep nothing. Well, almost nothing. "Callie V," he said, "I've got something for you." He went to his bureau and took out a pocket-sized red leather notebook with "Souvenir of Austin" stamped on the front. "Look here," he said. "I've never used it. You can use it to write down your scientific observations. You're a regular naturalist in the making." What exactly was a naturalist? I wasn't sure, but I decided to spend the rest of my summer being one, if all it meant was writing about what you saw around you. I could do that. If this sounds like a book you'd enjoy reading, you can check it out at the library or digital library, or keep it in mind for later. Thank you for listening, and remember to take some time to read something you enjoy today.